In this video, we'll be working on this 1979 Switzer, which has been sitting in this very spot since 2004. So stay with us and we'll see if we can get her going. So here we are in beautiful northern Wisconsin, 4th of July weekend, working on this Switzer. Like I said, it's been sitting here since 2004. It's powered by a 140 Evinrude 2-stroke. So we're going to see if we can dive into this thing and get her going. So I'm going to go ahead and pull off the cowl and we'll start taking a look at the motor here, so stay tuned. So here we are, the cowl's off. It looks very, very clean underneath the cowl actually for sitting here since 2004. So this could be good. So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to pull out those 4 spark plugs, and I'm going to shoot some Marvel Mystery Oil down the cylinders there to, just in case there's a little rust in there, get the rings freed up while I'm working on other things. So I'll go ahead and do that, then I'll catch you back up. Well, I've pulled out all 4 spark plugs here, and I just want to point out that, they look pretty brand new, and taking a look at them, they look in really good shape. There's no signs of rust forming on any of the cylinders. Oop, focus there. No signs of rust forming on any of them, so this should be good, and they're all a little bit oily yet. So, like I said, we're going to go ahead and squirt some Marvel Mystery Oil down them cylinders and let that soak for a minute while we're working on some other stuff. Alright, our spark plugs are back in. Here's the Marvel Mystery Oil. All I did is I took and I used a little 2-stroke premixer there to suck some up, and I squirted as much as I could in each cylinder before it leaked out. So now I'll just leave that sit closed for a little bit while we do some other things, and then we'll try to turn it over by hand here eventually. So our next step here is we're going to take this cover off to get to the carburetors and see what those look like. So I'll show you once I get that opened up. All right, we've got our carburetors exposed. Nothing obvious here on the outside. Again, it looks pretty clean. So what we're going to do now is take out our 2 bowl plugs there and run some carb cleaner up there and see what kind of goo comes out of there. Once we do that, if it looks clean enough, I'm going to hook up an auxiliary tank and squeeze the primer bulbs and just try to flush as much through there as I can. So stay tuned and I'll let you know how that goes. Alright, we got our drain plugs out, and I squirted some carb cleaner in there, and there's no gunk to speak of. I also came in here and sprayed it down some of the jets, and it came right out, so that all seems clear. So what I'm going to do now is rig up an auxiliary tank to this and squeeze the primer bulbs and try to get the fuel to prime all the way up through the carburetor and see if it flows right through, and we'll see how that looks. So I'll catch you up when we get that done. Alright, I flushed everything out with the auxiliary tank here. Just squeezed the primer bulb a bunch of times until fuel flowed out of the 2 bowl plugs there. Put the bowl plugs back in. So now I'm going to put everything back together here, and I'll see if the motor turns over by hand, make sure everything's not seized, and then we're going to put a battery in and see if we can get a test fire here. So stay tuned. Alright, we got everything back together, and we're just going to try to turn it over by hand to see, make sure it's not seized here. So we'll see how well it moves. She's tight, she's got compression. There we go. Oh yeah, there's a revolution. Good, alright. Next step is to throw a battery in, and we'll see if we can get it to crank over. Stay tuned. Alright, we got everything back together. We're going to go try to give it a test fire, so let's see what happens. Giving her a little more primer. Okay, keep it in. and check for spark on all the cylinders here and see if we got spark on all 4. Okay, we checked for spark on all cylinders. It's there, and I went ahead and I pulled the plugs and just blasted out some of that Marvel Mystery Oil in there to make sure that that wasn't falling out of plugs. So we'll give it another shot. Give her a little primer down the cylinder, see if that helps here. Let me get my primer. There we go. Okay. Alright, there we go. Now we'll go ahead and get some oil in the lower end, and we'll see if we can get about getting this thing down in the water. So stay tuned. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and put some oil in the lower end here. So I don't have one of them fancy pumps that you can pump it in from the bottom. So we're going to use the method where we take our squeezy bottle, stick it in the drain plug on the bottom, and squeeze until oil comes out the top there. So then once we do that, we'll put a plug in there and quickly put a plug down there before it drains out. So that's what we're going to attempt here, so we'll see if it works out. Now, the angle on this one's a little severe, so it's going to be kind of hard, so I'm going to have to go to the method of doing it from the top. So, get that plug in there, and we'll go ahead and do it from the top. Alright, a little update. So we put the motor in a bucket here with some water just to see if the impeller was pumping, and she was pumping, so the motor's good. Next thing was the steering was seized up, so we pulled out the shaft here, and I hit it with some PP blaster. And I clamped on here and up here with a vice grips, and I was able to work it free. So now I've slid that out, turned the steering all the way one way, and I'm working on cleaning up the shaft here, get some of the corrosion off there. So we'll see how clean we can get that, and then we will put it back together and see if the steering works right. So stay tuned. Alrighty, we got the steering all back together here, and everything seems to be working as it should. Now really the only thing left to do here is get the gas siphoned out and see if we can get some good gas down in the main tank there. Otherwise, we might be able to run off a jerry can or something, but we should be ready to take this thing for a test drive. So stay tuned and we'll see what happens when we fire that up. So off camera, we wound up siphoning out all the gas in that main tank. There's about 10 gallons of fuel in there. Didn't actually look terrible, so if there's any remaining in there, it won't be too bad. We can put some fresh premix in there and it'll turn out pretty good, but we weren't actually able to run the boat on the water. The winch on their lift system failed, so they're gonna at some point get a new winch, and then we can get that boat down in the water and actually give it a test run. So I'm gonna end the video here, and at some point I'm hoping to get a video of that boat running on the water just as a follow-up, so everybody can see that what it looks like on the water. It really is a beautiful boat. So hope everybody had a good 4th of July weekend. I know I did, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.